Hello. This video is about the special role of face-to-face tuition in open and distance learning. We need face-to-face contact between students and tutors for a number of different reasons. Firstly, setting the boundaries of the course, explaining course content, helping to develop good learning skills, helping to develop good links between the students themselves and the students and tutors, and finally, helping to motivate, keep an eye on progress and keep them going. In ordinary face-to-face teaching, setting course boundaries and explaining the course are both very important. But in open and distance learning, these are carried out by the correspondence material that arrives through a student's letterbox or by the internet, so tutors don't need to spend all their time trying to cover the course content. Of course, they'll still need to explain difficult points, but it'll be just as important for a tutor to help students develop good learning skills, to set up good links to help them help each other, and to keep an eye on their progress. There are three kinds of learning skills. Cognitive learning skills are the basic skills of the course, such as essay and report writing skills, numeracy and so on. Affective skills are about the emotions of being a student, such as self-confidence, motivation and managing the stress of a student's life. Organisational skills are about the physical and time aspects of study, juggling job, family and study demands together, and dealing with the paperwork. So differing tutoring styles will be used in open and distance education. For instance, in traditional education, the emphasis tends to be on didactic teaching. This is where the tutor explains the content of the course to the students. In open and distance education, the emphasis is more on facilitative learning. We encourage the students to learn to help themselves and thus become more independent learners. In practice, a distance education tutor will use a number of different styles, some facilitative and some didactic. They'll also use a number of different activities, some aimed at improving cognitive skills, some aimed at improving affective skills, and some organisational skills. It all depends on what the tutor feels their students need at that particular time. Let's talk to someone now who's been practising this for a number of years. Sue, you've been tutoring in open and distance learning for a number of years now. Can you tell me, how do you go about planning a tutorial?
I start by looking at what stage of the course we're at, the course content we're dealing with, and what skills we should be developing. And then it depends on how much time we've got, and I always split my tutorial sessions up. So if, say, I've got 2 hours, then I would do a short introduction on the course content. I'd then do a skills activity, and then I'd do some more course content. I always leave time for the students to discuss and bring up any issues that they may have. And this kind of keeps the pace going and brings in a bit of variety, so that it helps people's concentration and stops them going to sleep.
Can you give us a practical example?
Yes, if we are having a tutorial that's just before the first assignment is due in, this is usually a pretty critical time. If students are likely to drop out, then this can be the time that they do so. So they can be quite anxious. And I would do a short introduction around something relating to the topic, do a skills activity, maybe looking at how about writing an essay, and then do another course content section.
Can you give us an example of this sort of skills activity that you'd use?
Yes, my aim would be to give the students some idea of what I'm looking for in the assignment, and also for them to get over the anxiety about just getting started. So I would use a simple snowball technique to have a discussion around the essay question.
A snowball technique?
Yes, it's really simple and it's incredibly effective. What you do is you give the students a topic to discuss. You ask them to discuss it in pairs first, and then get them into fours to discuss it, and then as a large group discuss and summarise what they came up with. You might want to skip the fours in between and just go straight from the pairs to the main group. And why it's really effective is that it gives the students a chance to be involved in a small discussion where they might feel uncomfortable about joining in with the group discussion to start off with. And it also means that students get to know another student.
Can we see all this in action?
Yes, of course. Hi everybody, it's great to see you all here this afternoon and thank you very much for coming. I'm going to run through quickly what we're going to do during this session and then we'll get started. I'm going to do a brief introduction around the course, just kind of...
Sue's starting with a short introduction on a course topic. You'll notice that she's arranged the seating in the room into a square rather than in rows. That's informal but businesslike and encourages student interaction.
Us to focus on that, and then also bringing into that the other themes of issues of power.
You'll also notice that whilst she is speaking in a relaxed and informal way, she's still conveying energy and enthusiasm through the tone of her voice and body language.
Throughout the work that we do today. Okay, so we've been looking at the core themes and the underlying principles of the course, which
If you use a visual aid like a projector or whiteboard, then it's important to keep it clear and visible. Don't stand in front of it. Don't try to squeeze too many points into one transparency and make the lettering large enough to be seen by everyone. If you want to point something out, then use a pencil or something similar. And don't wave it about. Oh, and when you've finished, do switch the projector off. The bright light and hum can be quite distracting when they're not needed.
About writing our assignment.
Having done the introduction, Sue is now going to ask the students to do a short activity based on them tackling the first assignment. Sue, what's your aim here?
Well, students can often be really anxious about the first assignment, and this could show up in that they don't answer the question properly because they just panic too much that they don't think about what they're writing, or maybe they don't hand in the assignment at all. Now, I could get them to discuss how they're going to tackle the assignment by using the snowball technique again. But what I've chosen to do is a short activity that puts them in my shoes, as it were. And I've got a short essay example which I'm going to use.
Okay, let's watch.
Okay, let's do our exercise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to switch roles for a minute. So you get to be the tutor, so you can pretend to be me for a few minutes. Okay? I've got an example here of quite a short essay which I'm going to hand copies out. If you could take one each and then pass them on around. And what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you are the tutor and a stack of these are sitting on your desk and you need to be starting to mark them. I just want you to read through it quickly. I'll just give you about 3 minutes to do that. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just so that you get a sense of maybe what you're looking for and to just get a feel of whether you think it's a pass or a fail. Has anybody got any questions on that? Okay, right, well if you just take 3 minutes on that and I'll let you know when the time's up. Okay, that's the 3 minutes. Now what I want you to do is that I want you to work in pairs. So I want you to be talking to the student next to you, and we've 3 over here, so Dave, you'll need to join in and be a group of 3. I want you to just talk through with each other what are the things that you found when you read through the assignment, and make a note of some of the most important things or the key things that you found. And we'll just spend 3 or 4 minutes doing that. Okay?
Well, it's not excellent. It hasn't got a title and it hasn't got any references.
It seemed a bit rambling to me. It sort of went off in one direction, and then when you got to, what was it, page 3?
Yeah, she needs quite much more of a theoretical.
In some ways it just seems to ramble on her own experiences.
Oh right, yeah.
You've got some good points here on the whole. But perhaps That's rather not emphasise the disablement element, which is very serious.
And then also trying to get to grips with writing references.
Yeah, I have trouble with that.
No, she hasn't put any on, which is reassuring because I found that quite difficult.
Pretty marginal.
Okay, everybody, that's great. That is our 3 minutes again. It's good to see and hear so much great discussion going on. I think you've probably had many comments to make. Now what I want us to do is share all that as a group and feed back into a plenary some of the things that you've been looking at so that we can start to identify what are some of the good points and what are some of the things that don't work. And we'll use those to look at how we can develop our own writing skills and help with the first TMA that we're about to do. So, what did you all come up with? Any thoughts and ideas? Yes, Dave.
Well, we felt that that quite a lot of the essay had just missed the point of the question.
Sue is encouraging the students to comment and is trying to deal with anxiety about the assignment by drawing out some very simple lessons from them. Always reread the assignment, check back to the question to see if it's been answered, and so on. Note that she's also encouraging students to interact with each other and not address their comments entirely to her. She does this by simply looking away from the student who's speaking to one of the other students, which draws the speaker's eyes to that student.
All the time that you're studying that unit, just so that you can keep referring back to it. I find that really helpful doing that.
She'll end by summarising the points made in the discussion.
Okay, so if we put focus on the question, those are 2 really good points. What other points did you have? Robin, yes.
Make a plan before we actually start writing.
It's a good idea. Always pays to plan. Okay, so we've got planning. So these are 3 really good points that you can take with you when you sit down to write your first assignment, and I'm sure they will help considerably. So all the best.
Now here's a longer excerpt from a tutorial but without interruption. As you watch the session, ask yourself several things. Is the tutor's delivery lively and clear? Is the body language engaging but not distracting? If visual aids are used, are they used effectively? Is the discussion well managed? And finally, are conclusions clearly drawn out?